ever since Wolf Creek, Antipodean horror has really had this reputation for being for gruelingly going where no movies have grueled before. So the story here is this is a sort of a grueling horror movie, although I suppose technically one might consider it a thriller, a horror-inflected... It's a horror film. So a young couple decide to head to a remote creek miles and miles away from anywhere in order to spend a romantic getaway.
Bad.
You can see from the outside that isn't going to end well. En route, they meet a gruff local who asks them where they're going, and then gives them directions to how they can get to where they're going.
It's not going well.
And then gives them an evil eye that suggests that all is not going to go well. When they arrive at this sort of remote beach, they find a car and a tent. And it turns out that others have beaten them to it. Others are, there already. So they thought they were going to be on their own, but they're not. And then you see the others. They are a couple with a daughter and a baby, as a teenage girl and a baby. And at first, you think that these things are happening together, and then you realise. I don't think this is just me being slow. I think that the film, you realise that there are two different time frames happening. That what you're seeing is almost like an aftermath. It's almost like something has already happened and you're somehow stumbling on the aftermath of it. To say any more, I think, would be to give things away. But as a piece of sort of grueling survival horror, it's very nasty. It has some of that kind of raw, rural unpleasantness that fired all those kind of movies in the 1970s like... Wes Craven's Last House on the Left. I mean, it's not as tough as Last House on the Left, but almost nothing in the world is as tough as Last House on the Left. It's played completely straight by the cast and by the writer-director. There's an awful lot of button-pushing stuff in it. I mean, there's the threat of sexual violence. There is the spectre of a young child in peril. There is the spectre of torture. All these things that are regularly used by horror in a kind of button-pushing way. However, it does do something interesting with those elements. And although it's a tough watch, and although it is, nasty and cruel in its construction, it does do things that even those who are completely familiar with the sort of with Carol Clover's Men, Women and Chainsaws, which I know you have read many times. Carol Clover, Icelandic scholar who wrote a defining book about the horror genre, right. And I think it was her who coined the phrase "the final girl," and it's called Men, Women and Chainsaws, and it's about how horror movies aren't about what you think they're about.
What are they about?
The other thing.
Oh, right.
Okay, so but anyone, even if you've read Clover, which many people won't have done, but you'll kind of know the rules that she lays down about the horror movie, about the horror genre. This film does have strange and unexpected twists that do genuinely come as something of a surprise. It helps that the cast are very, very believable. I mean, it is a very, very good cast. Not least Aaron Peterson is actually terrific. I was reminded at one point that there was a film, again, I'm not comparing this film, there's a film called Martyrs, which I came that close to walking out of, and then I didn't, and I stayed to the end, and I was very glad that I did. In the case of this, there were moments in this when I just thought, I really, no, okay, but I didn't, and I stuck it out, and I'm glad that I did. But it is a tough and grueling watch, very efficiently executed, and with some unexpected twists that I think, as I said, even people who are aficionados won't expect.
I might go and see Victoria and Abdul.
You're going to give that a swerve, are you? Okay.
Or Goodbye Christopher Robin, maybe.